Hey, what's up guys? So we finally have the new Snowflower images because in the previous video, the artwork didn't come out yet, so we didn't have it available in the game. So now all of them have pictures and it looks so much better. But this duel, guys, is going to be highlighting the matchup between Snowflowers and hats or artifact Traptrix mostly, because the hands have been pretty much dropped, but people still know this deck as hat, so we're still going to be calling it hat. But again, the hands, like Fire and Ice Hand, those cards are kind of too old to be viable in 2020. So it's going to be basically highlighting the Traptrix Artifact deck because it is a deck that I have not really covered recently with, of course, the new list and seeing how it has a matchup against the Snowflowers, which is one of the most popular decks right now. Everybody and their nan is playing this deck because it's really cool. It actually has a lot of access to special summoning, a lot of different things. It's kind of a toolbox-ish deck, although if you play it in more of a pure plant variant, you can run cards like Pollinosis, which is something I didn't get to mention in my previous Snowflower video, but we'll talk about it briefly when that card comes up, because I think it's actually not too bad of a card. It basically is negate anything by tributing, which you can start proccing some of your other effects, but keep in mind it is a counter trap card, but we'll go over it a little bit more when I talk about it, when I see some play. But then the Time Space Trap Hole, excellent card, and obviously Moral Attack is there to stun, and you have Scythe to lock your opponent out of the extra deck for the entire turn, and that is a deck that definitely needs the extra deck for the most part, even though their monsters can get okay-ish attack. The problem is they really need that extra deck. But let's go ahead and check it out in another game over here. So this is the card I wanted to mention, Pollinosis. So when a monster or would be normal or special summon or a spell slot trap is activated, you get to tribute a plant monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And the Snowflowers are going to be tributing a lot. And you can actually get lots of bonus effects if you attributed a plant monster or whatever the case may be. But keep in mind it is a counter trap card, but it's a fantastic card. So Lone Fire going to go ahead and go into Petal. Petal is going to be attributed via Tear Drop over here because it is a quick effect if he wants to, but it's going to actually be attributed via Pollinosis. Then he's going to have the Tear Drop effect to go ahead and boost itself up to get bonus attack points. So that's the big card, if you will. It's kind of one of their boss monsters. So although its effect is kind of mediocre, you can utilize it to dodge certain things. So he's going to go ahead and summon the Lone Fire over here. But keep in mind, Lone Fire does not have to tribute itself. You can tribute another face-up plant monster. So he's going to go ahead and tribute the Snow Petal to go ahead and bring him Puny. And then he's also got Erica in his hand. He's going to go ahead and discard Erica to boost it up by 1,000. It's kind of like a Kalute, but the thing is that if you tribute something, you get to special summon it back from the graveyard. So you can go ahead and tribute, let's say, like Lone Fire. And he's going to go ahead and bring back Erica now that's in the graveyard. So it gives you an extra just 3,000 damage sometimes. You can surprise your opponent by keeping it in your hand, but most people would just use it literally for the special summon effect. So then we're going to go ahead and see the Petal summon, but that's going to get Floodgate Trap Hold, so not going to be doing anything there. And then we see the double Cyclone hitting the Swirling Snowflowers, which makes it so your opponent has to get rid. During your end phase, if you control a face-up monster that's not a plant monster, you have to destroy this card. But if a Snowflower monster you control is tributed, your opponent also has to tribute one of their monsters every single turn. But this deck, I'm still calling it hats though, but the Artifact Traptrix deck will just out-resource a lot of decks. I mean, you've seen this guy went through basically half of his deck, and we still see the Artifact Scythe out, and once that card goes off, it's really good, because again, it shuts down the extra deck completely for them for the entire turn. And then on top of that, if this deck ever becomes really meta, Gravehole is so good against this deck because they really utilize trying to get those effects via the graveyard to special summon themselves most of the time. So he's going to go ahead and attack right into the Petal over here, but we're going to go ahead try to get that effect, but the Gravehole is going to go ahead and say no. So negating the effect and making your opponent take 2,000 points of damage. Heck, he's got Gravehole too, because it's going to be a card I think a lot of people will be trying to run just in the main deck. It's just overall fantastic card. Not only does it stop your opponent, but it's that extra burn damage. So he's going to go ahead and try to get that effect of Petal over there during your opponent's end phase. If you control no monsters, or all monsters control plant, it's basically like a Treeborn Frog. You're going to try to get that effect, and Gravehole is going to say no and burn him for the final amount of damage. Really good stuff over here, but I got a lot more duels, and like I said, this is supposed to mostly highlight the artifact deck, because I did recently cover the Snowflowers, but I wanted to go ahead and show you guys a matchup where the deck didn't go first and explode, because a lot of people, you know, they want to see what the deck can do going second and, you know, have multiple turns, and it can get out-resourced, as you guys can see, but hypothetically, depending on the player, the deck, the draws, sometimes things can happen. But I want to showcase off more of the artifact Traptrix deck, aka Hat. But if you guys want to see more gameplay of the Snowflowers, I'll pin it down below, because I know some of you guys might have clicked on this video to check them out. And, well, they did do a lot as far as the amount of plays, but they just didn't really get the chance to go for anything because, again, it just got stunned too hard. And that just is natural with a lot of different decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you get negated too many times and you can't play, well, you're not going to be winning the game, right? This one's over pretty fast. He's got the Scrap Factory. Author is going to go ahead and activate that effect. But Sanctum coming out and saying, oh, hello, with Moral Attack disrupting the plays. And he's going to go ahead and also pop the Scrap Factory. And that's some good stuff over there. But I want to show what you can do against a lot of other decks that really don't get to see too much play. Oh, I mean, okay, let's be honest. Pendulum does see a ton of play still, but I want to go ahead and show you guys how good the artifact deck can actually be, because I think that the artifacts can be splashed into a lot of things. The Traptrix, however, kind of difficult to splash in because you need the normal summon for the most part. Unless you want to run like double summon. He's going to go ahead and summon that Daybreaker, because once you see that much back row, man, you definitely want to get rid of it. But that's a mistake, because you don't want to actually pop the back row because you don't know what it is. Because, yeah, you want to pop the back row because of all of the potential trap hole cards. But if you hit the wrong one, well, it's an artifact and you're going to lose super hard. In fact, one of the duels, it was actually the first duel that I showed off. I didn't get to talk about it, but Artifact Ignition over here makes it so your opponent skips their next battle phase if they go ahead and actually pop this card, which can be quite good. And he just got absolutely obliterated with the multiple Moral Talks over here. And I didn't get to really ever see this card in action, and that's kind of why I wanted to show off this video here. So Ninetales Fox can get its effect multiple times per turn, and I didn't really know about it. Hat was a deck that was really, really decent at times when you activated Scythe against meta, but I know the Fire King never really became meta, and I still think that deck has some insane effects. It just kind of got outclassed. I mean, the Onslaught is insane, and with the Karunics just popping things every single turn, it's just unfortunate during the end phase. What it would need is it needs to immediately pop everything as soon as it comes out, and then we'll be looking at something a little bit better. But you'll see once you pop the Nine-Tailed Fox with the Moral Talk, it came right back immediately with those tokens, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So he's going to go ahead and lose out on his Fire King Island. Once Fire King Island goes away, he pops all of his monsters as well. And then we're going to go see Wolfbark, and then the Dark Rebellion's coming out. But once again, he's going to go ahead and stop that with the Moral Talk. Again, this deck is just all about out-resourcing your opponent, and he's going to go ahead and bounce it back to set a card. So this is how you can kind of bluff your opponent. If a card automatically sets one, you can bounce it back to your hand. So if it would normally get banished during the end phase, or if your opponent knows exactly where that face down would be, they won't know exactly what you put down, because you can go ahead and surprise them and put it in the exact same spot, the exact same card, and sometimes they'll overthink it and they'll be like, okay, so he bounced it back, he must have put a different card. It's the mind games with this deck that I think is quite fun. And again, out-resourcing your opponent because it's like an anti-meta-ish deck is definitely the way to go ahead and win. But this deck does have an ace up its sleeve to go ahead and potentially one-shot your opponent, which we'll go ahead and show off here very soon. We could have actually made a game this turn if we would just move this card to attack position, but disrespect over here. Fencing Fire Fair is face down, so he's going to go ahead and lose one monster, but does it really matter at the end of the day? No, because he can go ahead and attack with Sarah for a game. He just prolonging it, disrespecting. Power Wreck's not going to be doing anything over here, but this game is indeed over. He's just going to draw another card, unfortunately. He just bricks, but yeah, it's game over. The opponent actually just left. Alright, let's go ahead and check it out versus Buster Blade. Like I said, this is more so to show off like the ace up the sleeve for this deck, because it does happen to have one. But I also want to go ahead and mention that Buster Blader, while you guys probably think, oh dude, this deck's a joke, it actually, with the Union Carrier, it's so consistent to be able to lock your opponent out. It's another one of those decks where it has the ability to make it so your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the, where is it? Is the Whelp? Where is it? Your opponent can't. Oh yeah, this is the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. While this card is equipped to a monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Well, this deck doesn't really need to go ahead and special summon from the extra deck. You can see he tried to go ahead and pull it off with the Union Carrier already. There's actually a combo where you get to do infinite negates with the Mist Valley, where you get to bounce it back and then automatically comes back. It's actually so nasty, but nonetheless, yeah, like I said, the deck. He's even playing the Red Eyes Fusion. Cheeky stuff indeed. But with Molotov here, and he's got the Grave Hole, just in case anything would be able to proc out of the graveyard. Bottomless Trap Hole activating, but he's going to go ahead and activate the Prologue. We're just going to send a Buster Blader, and then send a well, it sends a Distortion Sword and a Buster Blader to the graveyard, and then you get to special summon a Buster Dragon from your extra deck, and then he's going to go ahead and have the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, but that goes ahead and gets flipped face down, so not today, man. He's going to go ahead and actually get out the Red Eyes B-Dragon via Tributing, and then he's going to go ahead and activate the Prologue, Artifact Sanctum, once again coming out over here. He's going to go ahead and be able to summon this first. If he was able to go ahead and summon Scythe, that would be obviously the ideal scenario here, but he's going to go ahead and attack over the Molotov, and he's not going to be able to do too much right now. But, like I said, the deck has an ace up its sleeve, and it also gives you guys the deck profile, just in case if you want to mess around with it. I think most of the stuff in here, some of you guys might already have, and I don't think any of the Traptrix are very expensive. Heck, you can probably foil out this deck. Scythe was going up in price at one point, but I still think that the deck is still pretty decent. It can still hold up against some of the meta. Again, it really just comes down to just having enough traps to stop your opponent. But I think if you happen to go second and your opponent has enough negates, you might be in the situation where you don't get your monster effects. But if they start, like, you know, popping your back row, then you can still proc some of the effects, because some people don't really remember. But Artifact Sanctum, if they pop it, it does have that other effect where if it's in its owner's possession is destroyed, you get to target one card on the field and destroy that target. A lot of stuff just negates a lot of monster effects right now, so having all of these in the back row can still kind of help out if you happen to be going second. So here's the ace up the sleeve. We have the Utopia setup over here, so we can go ahead and double or nothing. We just hit our opponent for a massive amount of damage over here, and then you're also going to see a bunch of back row in the opponent's side. Dude, I can't, dude. Basically out exhausting their resource. But if you guys do want the deck profile for this deck, I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you guys right now. So we've got 2 copies of Scythe, 3 copies of Molotov, 3 copies of Geonia. We have 3 copies of Vermillo, 3 copies of Chronotis. We have 3 copies of Genelicia. This is one of the newer cards where you're able to go ahead and tribute this card, and it is in fact a plant card. So if you wanted to, you can actually mix this in the Snowflowers, get double of those cards, then proc all of your other effects. So I thought that was kind of an interesting mix-up here. If you wanted to, you can actually Lone Fire into it, which is cool. Then we have 3 copies of Ignition, 2 copies of Double Cyclone, 2 copies of Time Space Trap Hole, 3 copies of Impermanence, 3 copies of the Sanctum, 3 copies of Bottomless, 3 copies of Return to the Frontlines, 3 copies of Floodgate, and 2 copies of Traptrix. And then for our extra deck is basically the Utopia lineup, and then we have Allomerus over here. I didn't get to talk about this card, but it's unaffected by, all of them are unaffected by the effects of trap effects, but for the most part it doesn't really matter, because usually doesn't matter, yeah. Anyways, it has the effect where you can attach 2 materials from this card to special summon a level 4 insect or plant monster from your graveyard. And if a monster your opponent control leaves the field because of your card effect and is now in the graveyard or banished, except for during the damage step, you can banish 1 material from this card, then target one of those monsters and special summon it. So you can actually have a little bit more push potential with that. Then we've got Tornado Dragon, then we've got Silent Honor Arc or Flesia, and then we've got Pelosa and Sarah. I'm thinking this deck, what it really does need though is Sarah. Other than that, like if you really wanted to go ahead and max out on 3 copies of Sarah, you can probably throw in, if you want, go and throw an Extravagance. I think that would be a good option. Here's the other cards that you can mess around with in your side deck. Lone Fire could be great. Grave Hole we saw multiple copies of in one of the duels. Really fantastic card. And then Giant Trap Hole, when 2 more monsters special at the same time, aka Pendulum, bam, you destroy all monsters on the field. And then with the Network Trap Hole, when opponent monster special summons a monster from the main deck or graveyard, you get to just banish it face down, which could be actually really good. So that's it for the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and shout out to my boy Teriyaki if you're hooking me up with the gameplay as well as showcasing off his build of the deck. But if you guys want to make modifications, let me know in the comment section below what you would change. Like I said, I think Extravagance could be great in the deck because getting that extra draw power could be great in this deck. And like I said, you don't really need the extra deck. The only important card is Sarah. Very rarely will you be making it anything else. And in fact, you can run 3 copies of everything and just drop the Utopia setup over here if you want to. But anyways, thanks for tuning, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn that bell so you don't miss out on more new Yu-Gi-Oh videos. And if you guys want to send me in replays like my boy Teriyaki, feel free to go ahead and do so at azneyesreplays@gmail.com. Attach the YRP file, and I might feature it on the channel. But thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one, and I'm out. Peace.